guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, then just a welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today. I wanted to share with you my top 10 favourite books of the year so far. I know that we're now in September, so I am just a little bit late to the party, but I had a big reading slump during the whole lockdown thing. And I've read, I think I'm on like 22 books so far this year, and I'm really aiming to read 40 books this year. So I thought if I take a moment now to look at my top 10 so far, and then hopefully between now and the end of the year, I'll be able to do another top 10 of my favourite books of the second half of the year. So that's what I thought I'd do. I hope you enjoy the video. I'm going to start with a book that I only read this week. It's a little book, and it is We Should All Be Feminists by Chimamanda Adichie Agoshi. This book, it's only short, as I say. It's a copy basically of her TED talk that she did, and it was just such a quick read, but it was so informative. There was such passion behind it, you could really feel it, and I just think that everyone, man, woman and child, should read this book, just to help us all understand and make the world a better place. So that is my first one. These aren't in any order, by the way, although the last three that I'll speak about are pretty much my top three of the year, so that's the only sort of order I've got. Next up is a book that I speak about all the time, and that is Before the Coffee Gets Cold by this wonderful author right here, whose name I cannot say. This is, I love this book, this cover, this picture, and how sparkly it is. I got this on a bit of a whim. Hadn't seen anybody reviewing it or anything about it, but I saw it on the Waterstones website and went for it. I've pre-ordered the second book in this series, which is out later this month, because I love this one so much. It's set in a cafe in, is it Tokyo? I think it is, where there is a magic chair which allows the person who sits in it to travel in time, either back into the past or into the future, and they, as long as they are back before the coffee gets cold, then all is well. And I just loved it. I loved hearing the stories of all the different people who visited the cafe, and not just the people who sat in the chair, but the people who worked at the cafe and the regular customers. And honestly, I can't wait for the second book. So this is definitely in my top 10 so far this year. Next up, I have Holly Jackson's Good Girl, Bad Blood. This is number 2 in Holly Jackson's series. The first one was A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I read both of these books this year, and the first one, Good Girl's Guide to Murder, I gave 4 stars. I loved it, but there is something that happens in it that was really sad, so I had to knock a star off because it just, if you've read it, I'm sure you'll know what I'm talking about, but I'm not going to give any spoilers away. This is the second one, 5-star this one. Absolutely love it. I love the characters, Pip and Ravi, and this one's really clever because it's sort of, the main character Pip is now basically doing a podcast on the case that she did in A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. So you've sort of like going back and forth, and because she did that, when somebody goes missing where she lives, his parents, or his mom and his brother, turn to Pip for help basically, and so she goes along and tries to solve the crime and tries to find the missing person. Again, no spoilers. I believe this is marketed as YA. It's a crime. It's not gruesome or anything like that, but it's just really good. The only thing to say about it is there is a lot of privilege in this, with like Pip, the main character. She's like 18, she's got her own car, and the family has money and things, but other than that, really good, real quick read, really enjoyable, great characters, a clever plot for a YA book in my opinion, so definitely one of my favourites. Oh my goodness, this next book is absolutely, it's so lovely. This is Our Stop by Laura Jane Williams, and I read this, I remember I read it in February because it was Valentine's month and it was all about love, and this book, I fell in love with it, honestly. It's about a man and a woman who take the same train to work every day, and they see each other, and then they start writing notes to each other in the newspaper that's sort of free as you get on the train. And it reminded me very much of like serendipity, and like, you know, they should have met and they didn't, and will they ever meet, will they ever know who it is that's writing the letters, the notes in the newspaper. And the thing that sticks with me for this one is the end. It was just so wonderful, and I could just see it so clearly in my mind being played out in like a Hollywood film. Yeah, I just loved it. Chick flick, really sweet. Laura Jane Williams has got a new book out now, I believe it's called The Love Square, which I'm definitely going to be trying to get my hands on because I've really enjoyed this one. I would highly recommend it. The next one is The Silent Patient by Alex Michael. No. Oh, it's a name I'm not going to be able to say again. I've started it now, so I've got to finish it. Alex Michael Eels. I apologise. I'm not very good at names. I'm so sorry. But either way, this book I thought was brilliant. It's a psychological thriller. It's about a woman who commits a crime and then doesn't say a word. And it's about the doctor who treats her. I've seen reviews on this where people haven't really enjoyed it, and I know that some of the book, I completely agree, is not very believable in the sense of how quickly the doctor gets a relationship going with the patient, how they just, you know, and it goes through, because it's not like that, unfortunately, with our NHS services, and there's a lot of wait times, etc. But it's a book, and I thought it was really good. I thought it was very clever. I really enjoyed it. The ending was brilliant in my opinion. So if you haven't read it, and you like books like Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn, things like that, this is definitely one that I would recommend. So don't be put off by the reviews because I really enjoyed it and gave it 5 stars. Next off is, I don't know whether it's a thriller, it's like a comedy in my opinion, which is a really strange thing to say because it is basically about a serial killer, but that is Sweet Pea by CJ Scoofs. Now I haven't long finished reading In Bloom, which is the second one of this series, and that was just as good, but this book, the first one, is my favourite out of the two, and I know there's going to be a third and I'm extremely excited, but I bloody love this book. It is so good. It's about a normal woman who has a flat with her boyfriend. They have a little dog. She has a job. She's sort of going about her daily life, but she also kills people. And what I really love about this book is at the beginning of each chapter there's like a kill list, and it's got things like the woman who pushed in front of me at the queue at Tesco, or the man who pulled out in front of me at the roundabout, and it's just things like that. And it's like when you're going about your everyday life and you're like, oh, it's so annoying, oh, I could kill them, and I just really, I really like felt her anger and her pain. So it was just brilliant. I obviously don't go out and kill people, but read this book and fulfill those fantasies through this book. Such a weird review, but honestly it's really funny, dark humor, great character. I love Rianne, and honestly, do you know what, this book is genius. The ending and what happens was just, I told my mum about it and she was like, that is like pure evil genius. I was like, I know, it's like the best ending to a book ever. So I'd highly recommend it. Also, I love this book because it's quite heavy, but it's like one of those like fluffy ones, and it's like really soft. So yeah, Sweet Pea, just brilliant. some days this could be my #1 book of the year so far. I'm not going to lie, because I think about it a lot and it just makes me smile and it makes me happy. So that one. Gosh, I've got quite a few like thrillers on here. Yeah. The next one I have is Karin Slaughter's The Good Daughter. I had heard so many great things about Karin Slaughter, but I'd also heard that they were quite gruesome. So I hadn't picked any up, but I found this book in a charity shop and I thought, what the hell, I'm going to give it a go. I'm feeling brave. And oh, wow, I'm so glad I did. I cannot wait to read more from Karin Slaughter. It's quite a chunk of a book. Sorry, I keep hitting the radiator, if you can hear the little clinging. It's quite a chunk of a book, but it's a whole story. She's such a good storyteller. It's about two sisters, and something happens right at the beginning, and then you just follow their lives. 28 years later, we meet up with them again and we find out what happens. And the event that happens at the beginning is that's when it like unfolds basically, and they work out who did it and why, etc. The relationship between the sisters was brilliant because it was so real, and although they'd been through such a traumatic event together, it didn't mean that they were best friends and now inseparable. It was very real and relatable, I felt. As I said, the language and the storytelling and the build up of the whole thing was just, it was wonderful, and it was a little bit gruesome, so bear that in mind, but nothing that I couldn't handle, so I wouldn't let that put you off at all. I'm on the lookout for Pieces of Her, which I've heard is really good as well, but yeah, I can't wait to read more of Karin Slaughter. Don't know why I waited so long. Really, really, really great, like family drama, great characters, amazing plot, and so well written. Wow, brilliant. Okay, so I'm down to my last 3. The first one I want to talk about I don't actually have here. That's because I've given it to my friend to read, and I know that she's loving it, so that's good. I knew she would. It is Queenie by Candice Carty-Williams. I have the hardback copy with like the bright neon, almost pink colour. It's such an amazing book. As I said, these last 3 books on different days would be my #1 book of the year. Absolutely, all 3 of them are just way up there, 5+ stars. In Queenie, we follow main character who has just broken up with her partner, loses her job. It talks about, there is some trigger warnings because it does talk about mental health issues such as anxiety and panic attacks, but the way it describes the feelings that you have when that happens, if you've ever experienced it, I thought it was one of the best books that I've ever read about that. I don't have anxiety, thankfully, but I do have clinical depression, and I could just feel her pain, and the way it was written, I was like, yes, that's how I feel sometimes. And it was so nice to read something that was so raw and so real, and yet had such a slant on it that it was just so funny. And it's about a Black woman, which I loved as well because it shows representation. The relationship between her and her friend is just the best, and there's a scene in the book where she's sitting and her friend is sitting on the floor and she's doing her hair and they're chatting all like girl things and boys and life, and it was just so good. And if you haven't read it, then please pick it up. It's a hard read sometimes because it's so relatable, but that's what makes it so amazing, and you just feel you're so on board with the character and rooting for her, and it was so refreshing to read, and it's also hilarious. So I would highly recommend Queenie if you can get your hands on it, because it really is one of the best books that I've read this year. And then my final 2, I have The Gorgeous, just beautiful, The Familiars by Stacey Hall. Look at this. Oh, little fox. I mean, it's just a beautiful book, full stop, isn't it? Before we even get into the story, it's just wonderful. Look at the little back cover of this little. This is a historical fiction book, which is not always my bag, but I buddy read this with the lovely Emily from Novell Novels, and we both absolutely loved it. It tells the story of a woman who is unable to go full term with pregnancies, and she meets another woman who is believed to be a witch, and she says that she can help her, and we follow the story from there. And it's about the relationships that women have with each other. It's empowering the power and the love that these two women who are from completely different backgrounds share, and the way that they fight for each other and believe in each other is just wonderful. And it says on the back, in a time of suspicion and accusation, to be a woman is the greatest risk of all. And I just love books about women, and our relationships with each other and how we can help each other. And this was just, it was brilliant. The writing was amazing, almost like lyrical. I just absolutely fell in love with it and the whole world. It was so beautifully written that I could literally picture it, and I can, in my head now, I can literally see her riding along on a horse, which is like that she doesn't eat, and I can see it in my head now. And it was just because it was written so well, and it was so atmospheric, and just, I don't know what else to say. It was really, really great, and I cannot wait to read Stacey Hall's next book, which I'm reading this month again with the lovely Emily. And yeah, I'm so glad I gave it a go, because as I said, historical fiction is not normally my thing. But yeah, it was beautiful, really, really great. And then my last favourite book of the year so far is the first book I read of this year. I treated myself to this. I'd seen it around, and I went into Waterstones, read the first page, and was like, I have to read this book. By page 40, I knew that it was a 5-star book, and that is Girl, Woman, Other by Bernardine Evaristo. It's a big book. It's a hardback. We know how I feel about it. It won the Booker Prize last year. It was the first book I read this year, and wow, it blew me away. It tells the story of lots of different women from different times, different backgrounds, different races, religions, cultures, and as we follow their stories through, we realise that they're all sort of entwined in one way or another. This book just hit everything that I want a book to do. It made me think, it made me laugh, it made me feel. It was such a great story, but it had real meaning behind it as well. And I just loved it. And if you haven't read it, then I would highly recommend that you give this a go and pick it up. I know it's out now in paperback as well. I can't wait to read more from this author. It's just a wonderful story of women, again, empowering, helping each other, how our stories can pass and our lives can pass into each other's. It's beautifully written. It's just one on its own, and right now this is my #1 book of the year so far. I don't want to give too much away because I went into it blind, and I think that's the best way to go. So then you just got like fully immersed, and you just follow all of the different characters. They're so real, they're so relatable. It's just brilliant. Please read it, please. And that's it. They are my favourite books of the year so far. I've had, apart from my little slump, a brilliant reading year, and as I said, I hope to read at least another 20 books by the end of this year. Please let me know if you have read any of these books and what you thought of them. I'm going to go now and have tea and toast and snuggle on down with my current read, which is So Lucky by Dawn Porter, which I am loving, and at the moment could very well be on my favourite books of the second half of the year, but we'll see. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you're all doing well. Please be kind to yourselves and take care of each other. Bye.